Hello, hello, Ederson Oliveira here for the Soul Coder. Today I have with me for our third interview, David Poindexter, a friend from the Solo Coder group, and I brought him in specifically to talk about accounting, a very boring topic, but I think that he has a very good spin on it. So let's start with with Dave's intro. So David is the president and CEO of nvisionative, and he's located in North Carolina, Mooresville to be more specific. And yeah, is that fair enough, David?
That's fair enough, man. We're in Race City, USA. So if you like racing, you'll love this place. And if you love the lake, you'll love this place. We have it.
Very good, very good, very good, perfect. So again, we know each other from the DNN space. DNN, for those who don't know, is it's a CMS which is based on the .NET stack, Microsoft .NET stack. So again, he's a buddy of mine from that space, which is where I focus my efforts as well. And let's just get a little bit of your background, David. When I know that you are in a different position as compared to a pure and simple solo coder, so you have moved on this from the solo coder career. Now you have a team there. But let's start with your origins. Your secret origins. When did you decide to move from a corporate paid job to your solo career?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's actually it kind of goes outside of even the business realm a little bit into the nonprofit sector, which is business as well, just a totally different world, right? I was in a software development job with a company called Venetica at the time, and they developed, we were in the document management space and document workflow. So, things like for pharmaceutical companies doing clinical trials, we were managing the document side of things software-wise. And, I was loving that. But the corporate environment for me always left me, everybody has different experiences, but it always kind of left me a little empty at the end of the day. One, what difference am I making in the world? And two, I sure wish I had an opportunity to do it the way that I think it needs to be done, which happens with a lot of solo people that decide to start their own businesses. So, really, I ventured out of the corporate world and kind of jumped off of a cliff, Addison. I metaphorically speaking, great paying job, great situation, comfortable, living. It was just, good people I was working with and so forth, but I had a desire to make a difference in the world. So I jumped out into the nonprofit world and started a nonprofit organization that's a faith-based organization, and did that for a while, and then ultimately kind of redirected my path and used my eclectic background to start my career as a solo coder. So it was kind of an interesting mix. And if we went back even further, there's a lot there that's not even coding related, right? so it was an interesting time. Lots learned.
I'm usually very curious to understand, and again, I just want to dig this for the next 2 minutes is whether or not people that started their own business, if they started part-time, full-time, slowly, or jump out of a cliff. So you're saying that it was a jump for you. Now, how comfortable were you doing that abrupt jump? How comfortable were you there?
Very uncomfortable, but I was excited. It was this oxymoron kind of situation, where you've got this excitement and drive to do what you are passionate about and what you've dreamed about. But then you look at, and especially looking at the financial aspect of it, it was extremely scary, because it was going from way up here to nothing. I mean, literally nothing. And so it was very, very scary.
And if I may ask you again, feel free not to answer that. But how long did it take for you to replace your full-time salary? You know, on your solo career, how long did it take for you?
Is that a trick question, Anderson? Well, let me answer it this way. When I was in the corporate world, I was doing extremely well. Okay. So I still haven't gotten back to that point. Even I have moved beyond. But yeah, that was a pretty plush, kind of situation for me too.
Okay, that's fine. I know that I caught you out of guard and it won't happen anymore. But
No, it's okay. It's okay.
again, I think that we are okay for the origins here. One last point on the origins is that when did you make the decision to hire your first employee? Because I know that, and again, there are various stages in a solo coder's career. And again, you get excited, you jump, and then at some point you have to decide, hey, do I want to grow this bigger than myself? And then you find yourself in a position that, hey, for me to grow, I need to bring someone in. So can you just mention a little bit about that?
Sure. When I started as a solo coder, I was mainly doing websites at that point. Of course, we were doing designs that were related to that, and we had a little bit of a advertising, marketing kind of spin on things a little bit because I have some experience in that area. And but I was working with subcontractors a lot, and people that I would partner with as a business, not legally, but we would work together and do that. So I tried to grow it that way at first, and we still do that today, but we are much more strategic than I was back then. Back then it was really, oh, you can do that, oh, I need that, and what do I have that you might need? Oh, you don't know how to code, okay, I can code. So we developed those kind of relationships. Well, most of those were solo ventures themselves, they were by themselves, so the dependability became an issue. So to make a long story short, at some point I realized how much money I was leaving on the table, by having to pay more of a premium for those type of relationships as opposed to hiring somebody. It's a big commitment, right? But I had to mentally overcome me being a technician versus me being a business owner and wanting to grow a business, because as a solo venture, it's all on you, and you only have so much capacity. So to bring someone else on, you have to let go of some things, and they're not going to treat it the way that you would. They may care about it, but they may not do it the way that you would do that. So you have to really, it's a different world that you have to overcome. But yeah, so to answer specifically your question, it was about around the 7 or 8 month mark when I finally decided to hire someone, and I failed miserably.
But yeah, I mean that's not that. That's not that long, from 7 months in, and then you decide to hire someone. I mean that's an interesting feat. In any case, so again, I just want.
Are you interested in what I hired somebody to do?
Go for it, please.
Well, it was in the area of bookkeeping.
Oh, what a great segue, man! You have the perfect segue there. So great. Again, now we're gonna go to our subject matter here. The topic of this call is really to bring value to whoever is watching this about accounting. Now, accounting, again, very dry subject. I have been actually. That was my first hire as well. Not very much as a hire, but the first person that I reached out when I started my business was an accountant. From the point that I have incorporated my business up to now, I have the same accountant. So, but in my case, to be honest, and that's why I want your opinion, David, because I think that you bring another perspective here, I have to admit, a more mature perspective here. And I'm talking about business maturity here, because the way I see accounting right now is a chore. It's something that I have to do because I have to comply with government rules and because I have to pay the government. I have to pay taxes. That's basically it. That's the only reason why I have accounting. That's my only reason. And again, to me, it's not a business tool yet, but I know it can be a business tool. So my first question to you, David, is why should we care about accounting?
Wow. Yeah, it's a great question. And by the way, I totally relate to where you are, in that mindset, because I was there. That's why it was something that I despised to have to do. When you're first starting out, your expenses are very low, and random, and your accountant may be telling you, hey, that mileage that you drive to a client, you can log that, and I'm like, yeah, but just don't do that much, and then it's a pain, and what is that, pennies or something, and it was something that was, even though I consider myself a structured person, I was not interested in that piece of it at all. It actually frightened me a little bit, because I have an engineering background, and I started my MBA and decided to not pursue it because of accounting and because of the financial aspects of it. It was just something, how we get as coders, there's a certain times where we get a block on a certain technology, or maybe it's CSS, and you know just enough to get by, but you don't really fully understand it, and you just kind of block that out and shove it aside. Well, I was doing that with accounting, and so I totally relate to that. But at some point, Addison, I realized, and this was really profound, it's not going to be complicated, but it was really profound. Okay? Are you ready for it? Are you on the edge of your seat? If I do a job and I invoice somebody, they actually will pay me. Well, if they're a good client, right? That it just clicked with me one day that, if I actually took the time to actually do this and figure out how to invoice somebody, then chances are the quicker I invoice them, the quicker they will pay me. It changed my business thinking, on accounting. And I would like to say that really made me dig in and really try to understand accounting principles and all that kind of thing at that point, but it was kind of a gradual process from there. It was placing the value on that was the mental shift for me. So I took one piece of it, invoicing, and I became very diligent about invoicing. Then the next step was, I need to track my expenses better, and take that. And it was just a piece by piece, and still doing that today. I learned something new that I could be looking at in accounting, and because of the value proposition changing as time goes on and increasing, I care about it more and more. I wouldn't consider myself a bean counter, but you looking at what I do, you would think I'm a bean counter.
Got it. And let me ask you that. Do you differentiate between a bookkeeper and an accountant? Do you?
No, good question. No, they're very, very different roles, really. Bookkeeping for me is more of the day-to-day activity. I consider myself a bookkeeper now. I know enough about the software, the accounting software, to where I I can get my way around, and all the normal tasks that need to be done, I'm comfortable with, and I know how to do that. Every once in a while, a situation will come up, and I'm like, ooh, how do I handle that? You know, what's a better way to do that? But an accountant, a certified public accountant, obviously, you know, actually, for us, I'm not sure how it is in Canada. I'm assuming it's similar. But you know, for here, that role is more of an infrequent type uh, uh, activity for us. You know, we actually do that biannually, so, or semi-annually, I should say. Yes, not biannually. That would be every 2 years. But you know, that was a process to get to that point, though. It used to be more frequent because I didn't know what I was doing and I had more questions. But now we're in maintenance mode. You know, it's just we know exactly what the accountant's going to want to do. We make sure that they review things. And anyways, I might be stealing some questions from you. Go.
I mean, that's fine. That's fine because my next one here is it's really about. So far, again, you mentioned about, you know, invoicing, which is actually I have a very simple rule. If a client wants to pay you, drop everything and get that money. So again, I'm very in line with what you're saying there. So again, you're talking about invoicing and then you know, tracking expenses. Invoicing is very present, that's fine. Tracking expenses is a little bit to the past, but one aspect that I'm personally really curious to get to know, because I don't leverage that in my business yet, is how that information can help you out for in the near future. You know, how is the forecasting, how forecasting plays a role on that, because again, that's something that I'm not good at. I don't do. And again, I'm looking forward to your experience on that front, on the future side of accounting, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic, really. A lot of it comes down to the type of business that you have as well, rather than just basic, you know, accounting type practices. But, you know, as you establish the data in your software, okay, you will recognize patterns if you take time, like for instance, if you're using QuickBooks or something like that. There are a lot of canned reports in QuickBooks that you should probably take time to just look at. I mean, it's one click essentially to get to those reports. And you may not know what they mean, but for instance, you know, if you were to go into your profit and loss statement, well, there's a lot that can be learned from just that one report. So you start to look at that across previous years, right? And you see the patterns that are emergent, especially if you've done a good job. We still use QuickBooks, so we will probably use that for. Yeah, I don't think we'll outgrow that. I may be wrong, but it's sufficient for what we do. So there's something in QuickBooks called items, you know, that essentially are tied to certain accounts on your chart of accounts. Well, if you do a good job of thinking through your business model, you may have multiple revenue streams. For instance, you may, if you're a website developer, you may have project work, you may have web hosting that you provide to your clients, you may have domain registration services, you may have SSL certificates, you may have, you know, the list goes on, right? If each of those are segregated into their own they can roll into a service type account or something, but if they are their individual items, then that gives you the power to use the reporting functions there to see how you're doing in those areas of business. So if I want to look and see how our web hosting offering is tracking over time, that's easy to do. I've got the data because it's all segregated. You can even get into classing, you know, things in QuickBooks, which that's a little more complicated, how that works, and a lot of it has to do with the way that you organize things, you know, or think about things, or how things are tracked. But, you know, for instance, if you have a I'm going to get full circle back to your question. But if you have a company that you work with or another person that runs a business as well that you work with, and you have an arrangement with them where you work together and you share in this project, and let's say you get 70% of what the client comes in and they get 30% of it. Well, you could easily class things in QuickBooks to easily track that for you so that you don't have to worry about what you need to pay that person. If the money's flowing through your company, then you've got it classed properly. Run one little report and write them a check, and you don't have to worry about, looking at all the project details and that type of thing. You can easily class that and run a single report to print out a check and done. So anyways, those type of things will help you in recognizing the patterns of your business, which will ultimately lay the foundation to be able to forecast. And forecasting in business is important. Sometimes it's more predictable than other times depending on the type of business that you have. If you have a lot of residual type business, it's much easier to forecast, knowing that a client could go away at any day. So if you're highly dependent on 3 clients, and the rest of them are just pennies compared to those 3 clients or 2 clients, or even worse, 1 client, right? We've all had those banner accounts, that we have, and it's tempting just to ride those banner accounts, but if they go away, which they can do at any time, that kills you. So anyways, it really kind of depends on the type of business you have as to how accurate or how you would approach that forecasting. But the starting point is getting all the data in there, and it may seem daunting, but it's really not. When you take it's easy to think of things of items that I sell, right? Services that I sell. So organize that, get the data in there right, then you can start learning about these reports. And there's tools right in there to help you with the forecasting. I mean, you don't have to figure that out on your own. It's all about getting good data in, good data out. Bad data in, not so great data out, right?
Got it. Okay. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, one of the things that I do with my accountant is that I use her as an education tool, as an educational professional as well. Because again, as you mentioned there at the beginning, everything is very overwhelming. You're trying to start a business, and then you have this accounting mess that needs to go on as well. So again, what I would recommend as my 2 cents here is that use an accountant as an education to you. Now, my question to you, David, is if I'm just getting started with an accountant, what do you recommend me asking that accountant? And again, you don't need to go through a full-blown list of things that you need to ask and ask them to educate you on that. No, but what do you think are 1 or 2 main things that, hey, Mr. Accountant or Miss Accountant, can you tell me this or that? What kind of questions would you ask if you were a newbie there, David?
So the simple answer to that, and I'll keep it short, the first thing that you need to understand is what you should be required to do. What in our case, the IRS laws are as it relates to your type of business and the type of services and or products that you sell. Right now, big thing here is sales tax on services. We're shifting much more to a services-based tax rather than reliance on income tax, and that type of thing. So it's very fuzzy right now. So, and it varies by not only state, but by your city and your county and your districts. I mean, it is crazy. It's not something that I have the time to figure out, right? So my accountant knows the answers to those questions. And if they don't, they should. So that would be where I would start, making sure that you know what you are supposed to be doing so that you will not get in trouble. So, and that comes down to the type of business that you are too. right? The type of entity, the legal entity that you are, if you're a sole proprietor, or if you're a limited liability corporation, or if you're an S corporation or a C corporation, those all have very different things and rules that are associated with how you run your business. So basics of understanding exactly what you must do and how that relates to the way that you account.
Got it. Okay.
Two,
Go ahead.
what are the basics of accounting that your CPA needs to feel good about doing business with you? So if the accountant knows what they want to see and how they want to see it, and even though there are variations in the way that accountants think or philosophies that they have, they still abide by the same rules. So if you're going to work with a CPA or a CPA firm, find out what they expect and what basics you need as a bookkeeper to make sure that you do things in the way that they want to see them, so that ultimately that's going to save you money, because they won't have to go figuring everything out, piles of receipts, for instance. Some CPAs won't tell you to organize those a certain way, but if you ask, that's smart business, because you don't want to pay the CPA their $200 and something an hour or whatever it is to organize your receipts, do you? So, ask them as a smart business person, what do you expect me to do, or what would you want me to do, and how would you want me to do it?
This little thing here saves me a ton of space, a ton of money with my accountant.
Hey, that's pretty neat.
It's neat. It is neat. You knew that. You knew that when you saw it.
I did. I've got its big brother right behind me here. So.
I know, the big one. In any case, so but on here, guys, what you can see very clear is that my first hire was an accountant. David's first hire was an accountant. So again, maybe there's a pattern here that's hey, maybe that means something, that again, if you are serious on this, that's a professional that could offload a lot from your plate and help you not only keep compliancy, but keep helping you as you grow your business as well. David, I think that we covered it all. It's getting close to the mark of 30 minutes, which it's a good mark here. Is there anything else that you'd like to, mention about accounting in general, or in particular the profession that you go after? Anything to finalize, to wrap up our talk?
Yeah, I would say this, Addison, that, for those of you listening to this or watching this, you may be thinking, oh, they're at a different place. They're at a different level than I'm at. I remember listening to talks similar to this when I was first starting out, and I did the same thing. I discounted those because I'm not a big business. I want to be, but I'll worry about that later because it's not important right now. Well, what I would encourage you to do is treat your business as if it were a more refined business, because it will ultimately, it will help propel you there. Sometimes just having an idea of where you want to go, and you can kind of see that vision, right? If you don't have a vision, chances are you're not going to get to that place. So same thing is true for accounting. If you're alone doing this, these are fairly basic things that anyone, you don't have to be an accounting expert or have an MBA to be able to understand these things. So, get out of your comfort zone a little bit, bite the bullet, understand a little bit, invest in a software program to help you with this type of thing, because they're not very difficult to use once you get in there. They may be scary at first, but do it. Even if it's something like FreshBooks online, those are basic accounting programs that they're easy to integrate with things and make it very easy for a single person running a business. But anyways, don't discount it. Take the time to you owe it to yourself and to your business to invest some time in this, even if you hate it. I did, but it will help you.
Perfect. Dave, again, thank you very much. I really hope that we can refer back to this video whenever people are asking about accounting and where to get started. And so I think that it gives a good overview from someone that is using that tool as a business tool and as a compliance tool as well for the long run. One more thing before we go. Thank you very much, not only for doing this interview, but for being part of the Solo Coder small community, growing community there. Again, you have been a great, how can I say, motivator of me, of mine, and the group as well. Again, you bring very, very exciting and interesting questions to the group, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your effort, and yeah, I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Addison. It's an honor actually to be speaking with you about this and other things. So
perfect. Okay, so again, guys, go to the Slack group. Let's join. Let's talk. And again, we are always talking there. I mean, something that we don't have enough of is talking. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you very much, and bye.
In the back.
It's in the bag or on the bag? No, it's in the bag.
I wanted to say on the bag, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it.